This is the reason why wrestling is where it's at. With all these screaming fans here in Chicago, you can chant. Welcome to a very special edition of Wrestling Resource Television. I'm your host, P.L. Myers, and next to me is the consummate professional, Bobby the Brain Heenan. First of all, welcome to Chicago, and I appreciate you stopping by. We're here at the Courtyard Marriott in Elmhurst, right before he's coming to Pro Championship Wrestling. And for you, this is your second book. Tell us how that came about, your second book.
Well, it came about after the first one. No, the first book was something, everybody always asked me, why don't you write a book? You have all these stories, and you've been talking all your life in the dressing rooms and on TV, and you've been in the business since 1961, carrying jackets and setting up the ring and doing things. Don't you have stories? I said, yes, I have plenty of stories. But you know, I never get the ability to be able to put it down on paper, because you're traveling, and they're in your mind. And when I got throat cancer back in 2000, I got thinking, I better do something. I got to do something to keep my head straight. So I'll write a book. I didn't know how to write a book. So I got a hold of Steve Anderson through Bill Apter from Pro Wrestling Illustrated. We talked, and he knew how to write a book, and he knew how to get it put out, and I knew how to tell the stories. So we got together, and we wrote one. It was successful and had fun. We said, let's do another one. You know, when something's good, right? If you kiss a girl and you like her, you kiss her again. So we wrote the second book, and it's just been, the response has been tremendous. It's honest, it's about me. I tell the truth. I'm not like some guys that put themselves over. I have a 7th grade education. I'm no brilliant guy. I'm just I'm an actor, and that's what I am. I tell the stories about my 40 years in the business of professional wrestling, the good and the bad and the ugly of it. And it's fun. It's a fun read. You're not going to get solve cancer with this. You're not going to become a millionaire, but you're going to enjoy it, and you're going to feel better after reading it. You're going to have fun. And there's stories in there about my life in wrestling and some of the talent I've met and the boys I've met and the places I've been. I think it's just fun. It's a good read.
Well, and on top of it, your first book really delved more into like road stories at the beginning of your business, and you talked about like certain events like WrestleMania 3. I mean, talked about events, but this second book really goes more into how the business has affected your life, what motivates you. I mean, the real in stories that no one really asks you. I mean, when you're in the business for so long, they don't come up to you in an interview and go, tell me about your family. Tell me about what motivates you. But no, this one does.
They don't do that. But I figured these people have paid tickets. They paid good money to buy tickets to watch me and watch the people that wanted to beat me up. And you wanted to see me beat up. And you got your money's worth, I hope, because I was beat up. But it was fun. And I wanted the people to understand something about my life and me and everything. So the second book is more like a self-help book. It's called Chair Shots. It's how I've taken the chair shots to the head and the speed bumps in life and used that knowledge that I've had and put it to my life. And my whole life has been wrestling. My whole life has been entertainment. My whole life has been television. And that's all I've ever wanted to do, would be or become. So I put it in book form, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's interesting. If you don't, then I'll have my relatives move in next door to you. You're not going to like them. Their kids are worse than their animals.
Well, and what's interesting, too, is that because how you were brought up, and because when we talk to all the wrestlers from Road Warriors, everybody who's who, and now having you on, we always ask them, I mean, when you're growing up, who were your heroes? Who were your role models? And from your book, it sounds like it was your mother and your aunt.
And my grandmother, yeah. And but they were my role models. They're the only people I was around. And I don't know if they taught me right from wrong. The funny thing is, I never did. I did pranks as a kid. I did pranks as an adult. I can't help it. But I never did time. I never was arrested and do stuff like that because I never wanted to hurt my mother, my grandmother, my aunt. I respected them so much, I never wanted to hurt them. So I drew the line. I may have thrown a rock, but I broke a window. I could have knocked you out, but I could have killed you. Been in jail. I didn't do it. I always watched what I did because of the respect I had for my family.
And for your family that you had, when you got into the business, what was their reaction? Because, I mean, they're your role models, and you're like, I want to go out in the world and be this person. I mean, what was their reaction?
They disowned, no. My aunt had passed away by that time, and my grandmother had a stroke, and I'm not sure she knew what I was doing. My mother had a sense of humor you couldn't beat. After 4 months in the business, I told my mother, I said, we know what we're doing. Yeah. She said, I knew that. I said, how'd you know that? She said, nobody would let you manage them for real. And that's the sense of humor she had. And through the people I've met in my life in this business, you can't buy that kind of education. I knew a long time ago. I'm not telling kids not to do this. You need an education. You really need one today. Had I had been educated, I probably could have gone and made more money than I ever made in wrestling. I don't know if I'd have had more fun, but I'd have made more money maybe. But you have to have an education. You have to get a job where you get benefits like hospitalization, insurance, and things like that, which I never had. And that's what you have to do. You need to have an education. There's no other excuse for it. You got to have that diploma. I was lucky. Don't think you're going to be lucky, because you probably won't be. I was just lucky.
Now, how many years did you have in your career till your mother passed away? How long did she see your career? Because your career really evolved from a wrestler to commentating to managing. I mean,
no, I managed first. I managed first. Then I went through. I managed all of my life. I also wrestled part-time in there and then commentated. I started in the ring on the road in '65. My mother passed away in '79. Okay. So
she saw really the road stories of how the business, really, the hard knocks of the business before, the glitz and glam of, WrestleMania and the 80s with your own action.
No, she didn't see that. She died in '79.
Oh, yeah, no, but I was saying she saw the harder side of it. I mean, without the glitz and glam.
She never said nothing. It was a job. I went to work. She never asked me a thing about it. She never went to a wrestling match. She never saw me wrestle. She never watched. She watched TV, but if I was getting pounded around or anything, she'd turn it off. And my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, was like that. She wouldn't want to watch. Oh, he's getting hurt. I can't watch. But my mother just, she'd turn the channel and put on cartoons or something else, and she just never wanted to go. I said, come on, I'll take you to the building. I'll get you tickets. Nope, she wouldn't go. She never said why. I thought she didn't want to see me get hurt.
Well, yeah. She loved you so much, and I mean, the sacrifice.
Oh, she didn't like the popcorn they had at the Coliseum. Probably something like that.
Now, for you, because you pass on so much great advice, was there any advice that your mother gave you, like maybe one thing or two things that she taught you that you've carried on to your career to make you successful?
No, she never told me one thing. I just watched her. That's how I get through life. I kept my ears open, my eyes open, my mouth shut. I watched my mother, and she worked hard, and she was lonely for a long period of time, but she never said nothing about that. And she was always my pal and my friend, and it worked.
Well, and that's a good thing about it. I mean, showing you, for people, role models, people that look up to you, saying, hey, my role models were my parents, your teachers or things like that. It shows you really the impression they have of you. And when you broke into the business, from how it is nowadays, the road stories, making a few bucks here, not getting paid. I mean, what was your impressions, the initial thing that made you want to get into it?
I guess it was the theatrics, and to be in front of a crowd and to tell people to shut up and they get louder, and tell them to shut up more and put my hands on my ears and they get louder. I controlled 10,000 people, 93,000 people at Pontiac, WrestleMania 3. I went to the ring with Andre, stood in that cart, and I pointed to the people and they all booed. I got 93,000 people in the palm of my little paws. That was great. It's just I didn't want to read about the Boston Tea Party and Magellan and the Pilgrims. I didn't live there. I never watched space movies like Star Trek. I'm not a Martian. I never watched Cowboys or Roy Rogers. I can't ride a horse. I always was, today, I like comedy and I like feeling. That's just,
Well, and that's what has presented yourself in the ring. I mean, you look at everything that you've done. I mean, from the early days, I mean, to AWA.
I've done everything except wrestle a woman.
Really?
Maybe some of the guys were, I don't know, but I didn't know that from the beginning.
Well, and on top of it, for you, everything that you've done. I mean, talk about the AWA. I mean, when you look at the champions that you manage, I mean, what was like each federation, like the AWA, what was that like?
Well, the AWA, first of all, I started in the WWA, which is a small organization that Wilbur Snyder and Dick the Bruiser ran just in Indiana. Of course, they were in partnership with Vern Gagne in Chicago. And it was exciting. You drove in the cars, and you didn't have to work every night. You didn't have to work 7 nights a week. It was about 3 to 5 times a week. He'd give you $5, $10, but it was still more than I was making in the 60s working at as a car jockey. I think I made $65. So anything I made over $66 was a plus for me.
Wow.
And I had a mortgage on my house for $52 a month. If you hear that noise in the background, there's a motorcycle convention here in the building. So anything I made over that was fun. I didn't have to get up early in the morning at 8 o'clock. I didn't have to wear a uniform, spandex maybe, but didn't have to wear a uniform and with my name in my pocket over it, sit all the time and get my hands dirty, my back hurt, my feet hurt, my arms. This was fun. This was entertaining. I'm a ham. This is what I wanted to do.
And when you manage and you also wrestle, to do that, what was the transition for you like? Because, I mean, you're managing one thing and then actually have to step in the ring, and was there a difference for you?
No, because I saw managers when I started. Most managers were young guys that they were too small to wrestle, or they were old guys that couldn't work anymore, but they could talk. So I decided I was going to become a manager, and I was going to manage like a wrestler and wrestle like a manager, which means when I'm outside the ring, I wasn't going to carry a cane and sit on a chair and just wait for the time for me to become involved. When my man was hit, I reacted. When he took a bump, I reacted because in my mind, I had an investment in this man. I tried to project it to the people that I was really his manager. Yeah. If I wasn't his manager, I would sit back and just wait for the end of the match. Some guys are lazy and did that. No, I wanted the people to believe in what I did and believe in the guy I managed and in me and wrestling. That's just the way I was brought up. And then when I got in the ring, I backed away. I was a coward. I was what they expected me to be. They didn't expect me to get in the ring and have a body like Hogan and rip my shirt off because I was a manager. I was 160 pounds when I started. I was 5'10", 5'11". I'm 6 feet now. Maybe not, maybe 5'10" now as you get older. But I was, at the height, I was probably 290, 280. That was because of bad diet. I drank beer and ate pizza at night because there's nothing else to do on the road. And I wasn't one guy for running 20 miles a day and lifting 9,000 pounds. Didn't bother me. Didn't want to do that. I wanted to entertain.
Well, it transformed from AWA, I mean, the WWA. I mean, I saw people had pictures, programs from the beginning. I mean,
yeah.
When you step back, and I'm jumping ahead of myself, but when you step back as Raymond Heenan, not Bobby Heenan, because I know you sent your book on Raymond Heenan, when you see the books, the action figures, the video game, everything that you're on, and everything you've accomplished, what do you see? Because I know what I see as a fan of you and someone that admires what you've done and aspires to do what you do in my career, but what do you see?
I just saw a way. This is the greatest thing in the world, and all you people have to realize this. If you find a job or a career that you enjoy and love, money's not important all the time. Then you're good at it. Then you have fun. There's a lot of you people out there right now that are very creative when it comes to singing, maybe dancing, maybe acting, but you're stuck driving a cab, or you're working in a factory, or you're doing something you don't really want to do. But maybe you have 3 or 4 kids, or maybe 1 kid, or a wife, or a girlfriend, or something where you have to do it. But if you just want to do something that's really fun, this is what I did. I wasn't much for schooling and reading, writing, arithmetic. I wanted to perform. And it was so much fun to get out there and do that. I didn't care what I made at the beginning. Couldn't care less. I knew if I made more than $66, I was okay. So this was great. I had the lights. I had people. I could drink beer in the dressing room. There were girls that liked me. It was great.
Because, I mean, stepping back, we've covered people from Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player, Ric Flair, in my opinion, and a lot of others, the greatest wrestler of all time. You being the greatest manager of all time.
Thank you.
And I step back and I see the greatness of you've accomplished, and it amazes me all the things you've accomplished and how humble you are in your book, how family-driven you are, and it inspires a lot of people saying, look, this guy you might have called the weasel back at the Rosemont Horizon back in the 80s and 90s, but step back and see what he's accomplished and how much he's grounded. It inspires a lot of people.
Like Liberace says, call me anything you want, just spell my name right. And if they didn't call me weasel, and they didn't throw, people used to ask me, if they throw things, did that bother you? It would bother me if they sat there like this. They were mad. They were throwing things. I had done my job. And that's that's all I cared about, was entertaining. And the madder I could make the people, the better it was. I never hurt a child or did anything like that to a woman or made enemies like that. I just wanted the people to, I was a heel. I wanted the people to hate me. I did the best I could at that.
Now, as you have said, the business has changed so much. But back in 1972, I'm using that year as a reason because Pro Wrestling Illustrated came out, and the first manager of the year was you. Now, you won that.
Was I the first?
Yes, you were the very first in 1972.
Should have given me cash.
1972, I believe it was 1976, 91, and 89, you were manager. 4 years, you're the only manager in that magazine to win it 4 times. Back then in 1972, with all the theatrics, did it mean something to you? Did that award mean something to you back then?
Oh, all the awards mean something. It means that not only did the people at Sports Wrestling Illustrated give me the award, there were people that voted for me. There were fans that bought the magazines. It means I did something right. I accomplished something, and people hated me or liked me, but they were aware of me, and I did something. But remember, I didn't make Bobby Heenan. It was the people I managed, the talent. I had great people I managed. I had great people like Kurt Hennig, Baron von Raschke, Andre the Giant, John Studd, Guy Mitchell, when the first guy managed, one of the Assassins, Angelo Poffo, Chris Markov. I can go on and on and on. And it was just so much fun to do something like that. It was unbelievable that I could have risen to that. But I couldn't have done it without the people.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it by myself.
Well, and the thing is that you as a manager, as you talked about in your book, you were on the witness stand, and with the Vince McMahon, the steroid scandal, and they asked you what your job was.
I don't know.
What do? I manage. Well, who do you manage? You get paid. It was funny because when you really try to explain what you do, or even you try to explain as a manager what you actually do, it's pretty funny.
Well, I didn't explain it to the grand jury like this. Well, they asked me, they said, you manage these guys, right? I said, no. Well, what's your job? I'm a manager. So he made me read the room. I came back. Do you pay the guys? No. Who pays them? McMahon. Are you booked to travel? No. Who does that? McMahon. What do you do? I don't know. He made me read the room. All I did was walk to the ring with them. I'm the same as a wrestler. All wrestlers are managers. All managers are wrestlers. So all actors, we just played different roles. We're just actors. Bob Hope was a comedian. He also was an actor. He could sing. He could dance. That's all it is. So when you look at it that way, a lot of guys just busy think they're wrestlers. They really think they're tough. You know what a tough guy is? A tough guy is a guy who goes out when he's sick and makes a living for his family and makes sure his kids are healthy and not hurt. That's the tough guy. Anybody can go out and beat people up. Anybody can go out and spit at people and swear. Be a tough guy. This guy cares about the people who love them.
Well, and also, but you have to give yourself credit. You were a tough guy because reading your book and seeing what you did, you weren't sick. You didn't take time off. You were on the road, and you were actually probably away from your family more than the truck driver. Not saying that his job or your job is more or less, but what you did was just as, tough. To be away from your family, to make the money that you were making.
But I didn't have to unload oranges off a truck. I didn't have to take furniture off a truck. I still ate the same truck stops. I still had the lousy same meatloaf sandwich. But it was different. I was riding in a car with a bunch of guys. They were all smoking cigars. We all smelled like a chair. We drank beer at night. We ate bologna going home. We call them bologna blowouts. Yeah. It was fun. And we all said, hey, look, I got $30. Wow. I need to make 66. I was okay. I'm half the way there.
Now, for you, with so many men that you've managed over the years, when let's say the promotion says, we want you to manage this, was it sometimes difficult? Because, the relationship sometimes with the wrestler, you're not like buddy-buddy with them. You're just, hey, it's my job. I got to manage you. They put me with you. Let's work together. Were there times where you just shook your head and just tried to make the best of the situation? Or was there, you enjoyed working with them? Because I know certain guys you have relationships with that have lasted.
Only one guy, Rick Rude.
Uh-huh.
And he was a talent. And he was a great-looking guy, and I like Rick, and I think he liked me. But there was a jealousy there. Rick wanted to always wrestle with Hogan in the main events. I'm not sure how many times he did that. Not many.
No.
I don't know why. Hogan may have thought he couldn't draw with him, or maybe McMahon thought he couldn't draw with him. I don't know what the idea was. But everybody I managed, I got along with. I never fought with anybody. Rick Rude thought I tried to steal some of his heat sometimes, but he didn't realize that when you and I go to the ring together against one guy, we're always going to have more heat because it's 2 against 1.
Yeah.
And when you're in there wrestling him, I'm out walking around the crowd, people are going to look at me. But I only did things. I only reacted when it was time for him to sell and get his win back and let the other guy take over. Then I reacted. Then I entertained the people. But everybody else I managed, I never had a problem with. I never manage somebody I really didn't get along with. It has to work together or it don't work. That's like a marriage.
Yeah.
It has to be, you have to get along with each other or it just don't work. Was
there one particular wrestler that you got along with better than the rest of them? Like maybe friendship-wise?
Oh, God, yes. Like Kurt Hennig, I just love that man. Baron von Raschke, we talk all the time. He was he is the sweetest man on this earth. And he's a great family man, and we talk about Jim Brunzell, who I didn't manage, a great guy. Hillbilly Jim calls me all the time. There's just so many guys you meet you wouldn't believe. Most of the bad guys in the business, the heels are really the good guys. Most of the baby faces are really the jerks. That's the way I guess it is in life too. It's a wonderful fraternity of humans.
And you talked about that in your book. The friendships that you made, and also you're talking at many of the radio interviews. You had last night, 180 plus people in line just for your autograph. The books were flying off the shelf. What goes through your mind when you're at this autograph signing, and all these fans from age probably 5 to 75 were there in line, wanting you. People were even crying. I've never been to an autograph session where I see people cry in line. I think that's because they were too close together. I know. Bobby Heenan would have said, my main thought was, I wish there would have been 300 here so I get more money. But Ray Heenan's opinion is, wow, people are standing in line to buy my book, to talk to me. Who am I? I'm just a guy on TV that is a weasel and pretends he's tough and smart and has a smart mouth. And people are standing in line to see me. I appreciate that. I really do. That's why I made an effort to sign all their autographs, and I'll stay there as long as they want to do that. That's how Ray Heenan feels. Bobby Heenan would have said, gee, how long is the line? I gotta get out of here. Because I gotta validate my parking or someplace. We're two different people. Well, the great thing about the book was that you had people getting it as a wedding gift, a birthday gift, Christmas.
One guy bought 10.
10 books. And and also on top of it, he bought your jacket that had the sequins on it.
My black sequin jacket.
That had a picture with you and Andre on it.
Right.
I know we talk about this. For someone that is, I've been in the business 4 years as a manager. you know, you call them marks and stuff, but I mean, it must touch you when these guys are going out of their way especially for a manager. I mean, you know, wrestlers get all this publicity, but for a manager, you're just as your legendary status is big as just as the top guy.
I am a mark for marks. People don't, wrestlers ever said this. I love fans. The wrestlers call them marks. Marks. You marks paid me money and bought tickets so I could put food in my mother's mouth, bury my mother, my grandmother, put my daughter through college, and allow me to have a great life. I'm a mark. I love baseball. I'm a mark for baseball. I'm a mark when fans come up and want autographs. It doesn't bother me. When I was a heel, I said, get away. That's because I had to be that way. When people look at you, and like at the book signing the other night, I'm a mark for that. If you're not a mark for something, you can't be good at it. You said you've been in business 4 years? How long have you liked wrestling?
It's 13. So
You've been a mark since you were 13.
Yeah.
You've been in the business since you were 13 then.
Yes.
If you care about it.
Yes.
That's how I feel. And now you're what, 15? So you're 2 years.
2 years. But I mean, that's the thing.
Only kid, 7'9", 15 years old.
7'9", yes. And talk about the role of the manager. I mean, for me growing up, right around the 80s, right when, you know, WrestleMania 2, my father took me to, you know, when they had the closed circuit television. I mean, the big
Where you wanted to go or not. Right?
Yeah, the big satellite truck in front of the theater. You sat like in a movie theater, and you're up on screen, and you see it come through. There was Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. Here comes the feed, and then here comes Bobby Heenan up on there, and you're talking to the crowd. How you manage, you talk to the people with your guy behind you, and you got I'm excited. I mean, that was when I saw managers really just, I mean, you did
Were you talking about WrestleMania 2?
Yeah, WrestleMania 2.
You know, I was in the hospital the day before. I'd had a myelogram, which where they shoot down in your spine. And I had a broken neck. I didn't know that. I thought I had a pinched nerve. So I went to the hospital, and they shot dye in my spine. And then I'm laying back in the hospital bed, day before WrestleMania, and the booker for WWF at that time called me, and I told him I was in the hospital. He said, well, are you going to make WrestleMania 2? You're going to go to L.A.? I said, I'm not sure. I just had dye put in my spine. He said, well, if you can't make it, you're fired.
Wow.
So I left the hospital, got on a plane, went to L.A., which the time difference, East Coast, I live in Florida. I got there in the afternoon, went to WrestleMania, which it was in Nassau, Long Island, Chicago, Illinois, and L.A. I was in L.A., Bundy and Ian Hogan. Chicago was the football wrestlers battle royal, and it was Mr. T and Piper, I think, in Nassau, Long Island. So I went there, I managed, I cut the red eye back at 11 o'clock that night. Excuse me. Went back to the hospital and checked in, and the nurse said, where have you been? I said, I went to L.A. to wrestle. She said, are you nuts?
Well, and on top of it, you were just around ringside. You got in the cage and tossed around.
Well, that's what the people pay for.
Yeah.
That's what the people pay for.
Next month, more with Bobby the Brain Heenan on Wrestling Resource Television.